Hi, and thank you all for joining us today. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And as you just heard, you're tuning into Ethereal Encounters Unveiled, and we are live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, which is 105.3 and 107 FM in New Orleans. I always like to repeat that, make sure everybody's giving us a thumbs up, a like, a follow, whatever it is. We appreciate it. Today, I'm so excited, as always, because I get to talk to two of my favorite people, Preston Dennett and Dolly Safran. And today we're going to be talking about Symmetry 2, which will be soon the release of their book, of Preston's book, about Dolly's story and more. And we're also going to be talking about a deep dive into the fifth dimension and, of course, some UFO encounters. So without further ado, let me get them up on stage here. Hi, guys.
Hello. Almost forgot to talk.
It's always such a joy to have both of you here today. So for folks that don't know who you are, which they'd be crazy not to, but let's have you do like a few minutes intro about who you both are. And you can, I'm going to remove myself and you two can have.
You go, Preston, you go first.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I come from the Andromeda Galaxy. No, I am one of 5 or 6 kids. Came into this field as a skeptic. Thankfully, I was young, 1986, 21 years old. Or no, wait, let me think for a second. Yeah, 1986, that's right. And found out my brother had seen a UFO. My sister-in-law not only saw a UFO, but gray ETs. My other sister, soon-to-be sister-in-law, had encounters with little blue beings. Had a friend who had missing time. Another friend, very close-up encounter. Brought it up at work. Stupid me. Found out the lady I'd worked with for quite some time had a very close encounter. Her daughter was being taken on board craft and meeting grays. So this literally hit home for me. I became a MUFON field investigator in 1988. I bought every book I could find, attended conventions, really dove deep into this and studied this subject for a good 10 years, writing articles, occasionally going on the radio and TV even. Wrote about 30 articles, and then in 1996 put out my first book, UFO Healings, 100 cases, by the way. Since reissued that because I've found 200 more. Gonna have to do another reissue because I've got another 100. I don't know, it's never ending. But yeah, 32 books and counting. And super excited tonight to talk about the next book I'm putting out, which is a continuation of Symmetry, a true UFO adventure, all about Dolly's experiences. All right, that's it in a nutshell.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dolly Safran, and I was born a long time ago. I'll be 67 this year. I'm a military brat. I was in the military. I grew up and I've lived in Wisconsin on my grandparents' farm, but I mostly grew up in Miami. I am a contactee. I am a generational contactee. My father was a contactee, and on and on and on and on back. I have always been interested in science and everything connected with that. And by the time I was 5 years old, I started realizing that I was going on board with ET. My first memory was when I was 11 months old, floating up in my crib. I've been tapped out as missing, and they had to put a bolo out on me when I was 2.5. They found me somewhere else, 6 miles from the house. And I have had some really incredible education encounters. And when I was 14, I decided, because my mom was trying to convince me that I was either insane or had a very incredible imagination, or I was nuts. And, I had to figure it out. I'm 14 and I have an eidetic memory, but I was choppy memory with all of this. So I decided to figure it out, and I did. At 14, I came to it. I woke up on board, and they were real happy about me doing that. They wanted to know about my life. They wanted to know what I wanted to do. And the very first words out of my mouth were, fly. And it happens that it took a little while to figure out if I could fly with them. And when they decided I could, they put me in training. It took 4 years, and I became a flyer. I refer to it as driving, though. We drive craft. And I've been doing that ever since. I've had many adventures, and I decided to talk to humanity about it when I was in my late 30s, early 40s. Didn't say anything again until I was almost in my late 50s. And I started looking around for somebody to talk to after they talked to me for a long time about it. And I couldn't find anybody. Till out of my contact, the craft that I fly, said, I know somebody, write the name down. So I did. Preston Dennett. I went looking for him and I found him. He contacted me right away, and the adventure goes from there. Hi. Ta-da.
I'm trying to get everybody's wonderful comments up here. Thank you all so much for joining us, of course, in the chat. We love hearing from you. So let's get started with what I call Symmetry 2, but what's the correct title, Preston?
The title is confidential at this point. Choosing a title is so hard, Carol Ann. The first thing I do when I pick a title is go on Amazon and see if it's already been taken. This one's not. But I can tell you that, I've made the mistake before.
Yeah.
But a good title, I know it when I hear it. It's very hard to come up with. It's got to be provocative. It can't be too long. We have some imagery to it. We got a good one. It fits in with Symmetry. But yeah, we'll be releasing that shortly once we know the book is imminent. But we're still a few months away from this being released, so you're kind of getting the scoop here.
We love that. We like any scoop we could get. I get it about the title, though. I mean, it's hard coming up with a title for articles I write or YouTube videos. It's just it's such an arduous task, that's for sure. So I completely get it.
And it makes a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
A bad title can, not bury the book, but it absolutely, you want a good title to grab people. It's got to be descriptive and accurate too.
This one in particular has a meaning. It's actually going to be giving a meaning that has been lost in time here. And I'm bringing it back. And there's a reason for it, and you'll understand it when you see it. So,
yeah, that means a lot. You have to connect with it. What do you have, like 2 or 3 seconds to grab someone's attention? It's of time. So, yeah, I get it. But we're excited. I mean, of course, I read the first book, and that's a real page turner. I highly recommend that to everybody. Dolly, your story is absolutely fascinating, and for folks that don't know who you guys are, I would start with that book. And Preston, you have so many excellent reads. I've read several of your books so far, and I've loved every one of them, especially the healing one that you wrote about UFO healings.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorite.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. I think it's an important book because there's so much fear and confusion out there about contact, actual disinformation. And this lays it out. I mean, it's undeniable.
Yeah.
You can go on Amazon and read just the forward preview, and you'll see healing is a huge part of ET contact. I've got enough cases, enough quotes from all the leading researchers, almost without exception. I mean, seriously. But, this next book will stand alone. I'm doing a little summary of Symmetry so that people can get an idea, but it will absolutely stand alone. It's not only going to have adventure stories in it, some of which we'll cover today, but I'm more excited because Symmetry was really an introduction to Dolly's experiences. And this second book, we're going to be able to reveal what she learned from the ETs, which is voluminous. Like I was telling you right before we got on the show, every time she opens her mouth, I'm like, wait, You didn't tell me that. We're talking about crop circles. Like, this has to go in symmetry too. I did not know this. So
Yeah.
Well,
it's
Dolly, I
never
would think
ending.
it would be so hard for you to like remember everything all at once. Does it come in bits and pieces for you?
It happens. How do I put it? Like naturally. In other words, I've had a long life and I have thousands of memories and experiences and education with ET and here. Okay. And I am wide open on a huge amount of information. And it takes a lot to like send me somewhere that I know something. If we're talking about it, it comes up and I go, oh yeah, how about this? I do it to Preston all the time. We'll be talking and I'll see something or somebody else will post something. I'll go, this is how this really is, and explain to him why and how. Okay. Some of the things that I've been doing over the years is I immediately began with, there are things that you think you understand about science that are totally incorrect. They're theoretical and they're absolutely wrong. And 7, 8, 9 years ago, I told him what they were right off the top. And I said, you're going to watch this change, because the minute more information about ET starts coming out, they have to backtrack and go back to the truth, because they have no choice at that point. Because there's too many scientists out there who are not funded, who can think this through and know better than what they're purporting you to believe. And it's not okay. So I began with those things. And as time has ticked by with us, he's going, oh my God, you're right. And it's like, it is important that if you're going to know something, you tell the truth about it. That's my first order of business. ET put that on me when I said I'm coming out. They said, you have to give explicit evidence. You have to tell the truth about what you know, because whether they can prove it or not, it doesn't matter. They will eventually prove it, but you have to keep speaking the truth, because it's the only way with people watching what's going on are going to catch up to it and go, oh my God, she said that 10 years ago. Okay. She knows.
Yeah.
So
one would be the existence, or rather non-existence, of dark matter.
Yeah. Dark matter is failed science.
Which they're now coming to, an awareness of that is a failed theory.
Right. Now they're
the solar flares going on, the collapsing of the magnetic field,
right.
Black holes, they're changing all their theories about that. Right. There's a number of things.
Right.
That's crazy. So dark matter's not this filler space filled with what? Can you give us a quick rundown of what it is then?
It is everything. It's light. It's light that you can't see. We're not built on this planet in how we're created here. Our ethnicities, we don't have the eyesight or the technology to see all the different spectrum of light. We only see a very narrow band of it. And science is coming along where they're widening that band, but they still can't see it. Then they had to describe what gravitation does to light. It bends it. So you can't point in a straight line all the way to the end of the universe and see what's there, because it's going to bend around it. The entire center of our universe is unseeable to science. They have no way of understanding what that is or what is even in it, because they're viewing everything in a circle all the way around it, or a circle above it, or a circle below it. They have no pinpoint to the center of the universe. That's the second thing that I talk about. Our optics suck. So, and I said this before they put the Hubble out, and before they put the second telescope out there. And when they did, they started going, oh, that's when they found out that black holes are not singularities. They are not an endless, bottomless pit of energy. They actually, like a quasar, shoot energy mass out of it. You can't see it because it's a frequency of light and energy that you can't see. And they can't measure because they can't get to it. They don't have the technology for it. And I said that years and years and years ago. And now they're finally coming to the truth of that, or they're admitting it. We have a lot of scientists on this planet who are funded, and the people who fund them hold the purse strings to their,
of course,
and they can make them say what they want them to say.
Exactly. They're basically paid off. They're pushing a narrative that's not necessarily, I don't want to, use a universal term or make generalities.
Right.
They're paid off, some of these guys pushing a narrative that might not be true.
Yeah. one of the very first things that I said was that gravity is the result of electrical current, electricity. Gravity can't exist without electricity. And I had about 2 million people attack me online over it. And I said, y'all need to rethink this, and you need to go back and look at who said that to you and what they said about it, because it's all theory. They don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I got attacked for saying, people telling me, well, you can't know everything. And you're right, you don't. But what I do know, I will speak about empirically. And gravity is the result of electricity. There is such a thing as gravity that is made from mass. Mass does create a type of gravity, but at the center of that mass is a giant electrical field. Our entire center of our planet is electric. It is electromagnetic. It isn't just that the mass created that. The mass didn't. It was a molten electromagnetic center that created the mass being pulled together. Okay. All mass. This is the technology of light. It is the technology of energy that I was taught by ET. All their craft are run on those theories, not the ones they're purporting, on those. And when I say there's a graviton field wave, it's electric. They produce a gravitational field around them, 2 of them, when they're flying, so that they can be anti-grav on this in our atmosphere and around our planet in parts of space. It's how they create light gates, dimensional light gates, to travel hundreds of millions of light years to go, because they can't travel in conventional space. They have to bend light to do that. That's the only way they can get there. And it's dimensional light. Dimensional light is bent. The reason you can't see the 4th dimension, which is in the same space as you, is because your eyesight won't let you see it.
Right.
Your brain is not computer ready to see it.
There's an assumption that the bigger a planet is, the greater its gravity is going to be. Not necessarily true. Dolly's talking about going to the planet where the Greys live, Endioma. It's a much bigger planet than Earth with a lighter gravity.
Yeah.
And she told me this. I'm like, no, wait a second. This is flying in the face of
well, you have a lot
theory.
of complications. It's distance from their sun. It's speed that they're rotating around in. These all compute into what a gravity on a planet's going to be. Earth used to have a much lighter gravity than it does now. We're heavier gravitationally now because we're a little bit closer to our sun.
Right.
Think about that. You know, we didn't used to be. We're a little bit further back, but calamity happened. Mars got beat up and still further out, and we got pulled in, and our gravity increased. That's why dinosaurs can't live here anymore. Too much gravity, they all die. They cannot handle it. My dad, when I was little, my dad knew this too. When you have a father who's also a contactee, and I didn't know it then, one of the first things he did when I was 5 years old, he says, we're going to develop the gravity club in this house. And I said, really, gravity club? Why? He said, you'll understand me later. Okay. And I said, okay. So we had the gravity club. And one of the first rules is the taller you are, the more gravity you have on your spinal cord. And I was like, okay, I didn't understand it then until I got older. And I went, oh yeah, now I get it. Okay. But he did things like that to me growing up. He used to play games with me, psychic games. You know, let's do this. I know that I can turn a traffic light green using my abilities. And he did it a physical ability. In other words, we sat in the car and we hit a red light, right at the red light. He said, just blow it out. Think about it blowing out. Man, I could blow it out in seconds. Okay. Green. Okay. And then when I got older, I realized, oh no, I get it what he did. He was teaching me a game, how to use my ability. And I automatically go to it. I can actually change things around. Okay. I can hit the sensors in the thing magnetically, electromagnetically from my mind and trip the wire, you know, trip.
Can you do that today?
What?
Do you still do that today? Like just for fun?
Every now and then. Yeah. I practice. Yeah, I don't do too much of it in front of everybody. I used to scare the hell out of everybody. And one of my best friends when I was growing up, she's not with us anymore. She's passed away. But I used to drive us around all the time because I had the car. And we'd play that game in the car and stuff. She was a contactee as well. She got to experience with me.
Oh, wow.
She was my best friend. And I loved her very much. I'm sad that she's gone, but yeah, these are things that I grew up learning, and it's hard to explain to people how I can, people say, well, you can't be in a know-it-all. And I'm like, no. If I don't know something, I will flat out tell you I don't know, but if I'm talking to you about what I do know, please don't take me the wrong way. I challenge people. If you don't understand what I'm saying or you don't believe me, look it up, prove it to yourself.
Yeah.
Do the science yourself,
I'm going to put this question out there to both of you. With all the hullabaloo that's going around with what they found underneath the pyramid of Giza, I know you probably have a lot to say about it, with the sonar that they took and these coils that are under, and that they're kind of like portals for UFOs to get energy from. Like, what's your take on that, guys?
It's not a take, I understand. I put a thing up. There's a scientist. She's an astrophysicist. Her name is Sabine. Okay. And I like her a lot because this woman is not funded by anybody and she knows the truth about a lot of things. All right. And I was looking for somebody who would back me up my opinion, because what they did was they're trying to make you think that their science is a real science, that their technology is all that. It is not. It takes more than one type of unit to look down into the ground, and you can't see it exactly like an X-ray. You're just getting sound waves or energy waves or whatever. And what I can tell you is what's under there is masked. There's no way for you to know. They know that there are straight lines going down, but they don't know what they're made of. They don't know that they're cylindrical. They're not telling you the truth about that. They're using the wild imagination to describe it, and it's not real. I feel sorry for the Egyptian government, because do you know how many people are going to try to go dig Giza up now because of that?
Yeah.
Bad. This is not true. It's not a portal. What Giza is a giant battery. What you don't understand is this wasn't always desert. 14,000 years ago, it was flooded there. Everything was flooded. It was in water.
Right.
And Giza, the way the pyramid was built, especially with the copper cap on top and the limestone outside of it, those chambers are exactly how you would put chemicals in certain bins. Where they say the sarcophagus was? That wasn't. That was an acid bin where they put acids and stuff like that. It's a battery, a giant battery. And it's because ET, when they came down, would need electricity to recharge their batteries. And that's exactly what Giza is, a giant battery. So it could send up a heavy electrical signal up to charge their batteries. And the ET built that thing. Nobody else built it but ET. And I'm telling you, it goes all the way back 27,000 years that I understand about it from ET.
My word. So what changed? Why don't they use that anymore? And what do they use now to regenerate?
Well, first of all, during time, people are stupid and they do stupid things. Napoleon is one of the idiots, went over there bombing everything he could get his hands on. Plus the people who were poor and went through famine and drought and all this other kind of stuff when the weather started going bad, started raping the pyramid before any real science could occur around it. They took all the limestone off it. It's gone. You can't get it back. It's gone.
You have a copper covering on top.
It's gone. I know. And
I couldn't tell that there was a copper, fitting on the top.
Well, weather has weathered what's out there now. They've been shifted. They've removed big pieces of rock from it as well. So it's like, if you want to put it back together, you better be the engineer that did it in the first place. And there is no engineer here now for that. They don't have the technology to repair it. Only ET does. And do you think they're going to do it? No, no, because this group that we're in is not okay. And we have to evolve here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Preston, I assume you feel the same about that whole story.
Yeah, well, that's another one of the things that Dolly mentioned long before this became news. She's like, there's stuff under the pyramid. I'm like, oh, really? She's like, oh, yeah, these were, basically what you just described, not in quite as much detail, but absolutely, yeah.
She rods that go into the ground. Batteries have rods and they go into liquid, acid water. Okay, and that's the kind of straight lines that they see. They're rods.
Yeah.
And they've deteriorated over time as well and dried out and everything. So it's not what you think it is. And they're not portals, not at all.
No. And I met a contactee years ago when I just got into this field down in San Diego, who gave me his book on the pyramids and had a drawing of what it looked like, when it was freshly built, and said the
Yeah.
same darn thing, that these were actually batteries. And he had this whole, and I've got the book somewhere back there, all worked out mathematically in detail. He learned same information he learned
Is it
at
a bad
Dolly
idea? Is it a bad idea for archaeologists to start digging? And
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
it is.
Leave it alone. Yeah.
why is that a bad idea, Dolly?
Because they're going to find out the truth of it. They already know the truth of it. You don't have to dig it up to prove what's going on. They have people that know the truth, and they're not telling you the truth. They're the ones you need to go after, not Giza or underneath that. Please don't do that to the Egyptians. Leave them alone. They, history is a funny thing. Archaeology knows that there are plenty of civilizations that built on top of other civilizations, taking them over, okay, and just tried to imitate it, but they couldn't, and just kept building up. Giza is one of those situations where they stripped it, and bless the Egyptian governments, they kept it as pristine as they could since they realized what the heck it was that they had. But nobody needs to touch it ever again. Nobody has time to make sense out of it. They already know the truth. This is where we need to go. We need science to tell you the truth because they know it, and they're not saying anything, and they have an agenda. Why not?
Yeah, and I think part of the problem is everybody wants disclosure now. They want, instead of the grainy black and white videos, they want some proof. And everybody's itching for proof instead of just words and fuzzy.
Yeah, I want to tell you a secret about that. I want to give you something to think about, everybody. I want you to think about this. You're sitting in your backyard, and your neighbor comes over and says, there's going to be an asteroid in 15 minutes. You need to react to it now. Get out of the area. I'm leaving now. And they leave, and they say, wait, prove it to me. Prove it to me that there's an asteroid coming, and I'll react to it. It says, you don't have time. We don't have time to prove it to you. You're not smart enough to figure it out in 15 minutes. That's all you got. What are you going to do? Are you going to sit there for 15 minutes to see the asteroid? You're a dead man if you do that, okay? Or are you going to take on some type of knowing who this guy is? If this guy has told you the truth all along, and he's had information, he's an astronomer, and he's never steered you wrong one time, what would you do? You'd get in the car and leave that area right now, okay? You'd get out, grab your whole family and leave. We have a situation now where there is a global misinterpretation of reality going on. There's two sides. There's the side that doesn't want you to know the truth, and there's the side that's going, what is the truth? Okay?
What the hell?
In between of that is all this misinformation, disinformation, smoke and mirrors, lies, unbelievable arguments and theory pushing, and then people who are just delusional, okay? Sorry, but that happens during times like this. Anarchy is on us. It really, really is. The only thing that I can tell you is I can't prove to you any of this. You have to prove it to yourself. And I'm telling you that the time is running short. We're getting low on time here. And I'm giving you clues to where that the source of the truth is. Not proof, truth, because scientifically you can figure this out. That's way better than me proving it to you. The truth can prove it to you. But I can't make you understand what the truth is. You have to do it. You have to get off your butt and look up what I tell you to look up. Go and talk to the people that I'm talking to and that I know are telling you the truth. And then you make your decision, and you need to do it rapidly. And I've been saying it for 2 straight years now with Preston, online, offline, in everywhere I go. There are 3 people that I would send you to. Space Observers with Ben Davidson.
Take notes.
Yeah. Sky Scholar, Dr. Robitaille, who works with Ben a lot now because we're getting close, and Robitaille wants to be out there because Robitaille plans on surviving this. Okay. Then there's Dr. Sabine, who is a physicist, and she tells the truth about the truth of science. Okay. I would say go listen to what this woman says, please. Yeah. Because if you want to know that I'm telling you the truth, I need somebody to back me up, and she's one of them. Sky Scholar is one, Dr. Robitaille, and Ben Davidson is another one. You got 3 people on this planet who are screaming from the rooftops, listen to what's going on. Ben spent the last 10 years of his life putting up video of teaching, educational videos that you can bitch watch, excuse my French, and sit there and watch them all until you're educated and understand what we're talking about. And then you can go to places like Noah and the different places that watch the sun, and every day put your eyes on it and realize that, oh yeah, here we go. It's real. It's not a joke. It's real. And then act accordingly, because everybody has a decision to make in this lifetime. Okay. ET's done everything they can to disclose to the human population, not the government. And there are enough people that have seen ET and have taken pictures of ET and can tell you personally about ET. We have disclosure. Don't doubt that for a minute. Don't doubt it.
Yeah, ETs have done their part.
Yeah.
I think people want the truth handed to them on a silver platter. And that's not really how it works. True knowledge comes from personal experience only.
Right.
You can certainly build up a belief system, but you have to be ready for that belief system to collapse when new knowledge is introduced to you. And this is one of the signs of intelligence, is your ability to adjust your belief system, your current state of knowledge, to new information, which is very difficult to do.
Right.
Well, cognitive dissonance, everybody's got it in one form or another. And both of you, if either one is talking and you want to pump up some of the comments and post them up, feel free, because there's a lot of questions going on and I'm like paying attention to both of you. And I don't
Preston, you read the comments better than I do. You go for it.
So
on this stuff. Yeah.
They're flying by. There's a very active chat. It's nice to see some familiar names in there. So
there's a lot going on.
Yeah. I want you to understand that I'm not the only one who knows about this. There are plenty of people out there who do. People who have been prepping for this for the last 50 years. Most of the people who are already off-grid preppers know this is coming. They're not stupid. They figured it out. And yet you don't know where they are. Ask yourself why. Because they know that come the day it happens, the world is going to lose its mind and people are going to go crazy and start fighting each other for resources, which are going to be zero. Okay.
Okay, Dolly, what is it and who are they?
All of the preppers, every single prepper on this planet, people who have learned to live off grid, learn to make their own food, hunt their own food, don't need electricity to survive and have already dug in. They're so far off your radar, you wouldn't be able to find them if you tried. Yeah. There are ways to do it, and I'm not going to tell you exactly, but I'll give you a hint. You can resource through Google right now. You Google preppers, prepper camps, prepper resources, prepper things that you need to know about prepping, and you start paying attention to that and learn as much as you can. You can get books on herbs and healing and all kinds of stuff. You can learn how to preserve food. You can learn how to preserve your water. You can learn where to live during a failure of power because I'm going to tell you something. When this CME hits, it's going to be that bad. It will burn your house to the ground. If you have a propane tank, it will explode like a bomb. Every single nuclear, and if I hear one more person argue with me about this, I'm going to get mad. They say they have fail safes. They can't melt down. That is the biggest budget tripe on the planet. The truth is this: if those rods are engaged and the power fails and there's no backup, they will overheat and they will melt down, and there will be a nuclear explosion in every single nuclear plant on this planet. There will be no way to stop it. Now, if they're armed warheads, they can't go because they can't be hit. Okay. Now they can be melted around that warhead. Okay. Because they're full of metal. And I'm worried about what that might incur, okay, depending on how they've rigged that sucker to blow. But no, nuclear power plants will melt down. There is no fail safe for an active nuclear power plant engaged for it to stop the meltdown. If the grid goes down, there is no backup. There is no generator. There's no Faraday for this. It will go. And if you live near one, you're in danger. This is the things that we need to think about. These are the things that ET tried to stop our governments worldwide from doing to us. Okay. Now you ask yourself, why is this such a big deal to them? Because they knew about it all the way after the Carrington event, and they've been proving it to themselves all the way up into the 60s. That's why they went to the moon, because they know the sun's going to micronova too, and they needed proof, and it's on the moon. Understand?
Scary stuff. Absolutely.
It's the truth. It's only scary now because those idiots kept us, most people. Why do you think fluoride hit the water? They know that it gums up your pineal gland. They knew that we were psychic. Okay. They knew that we had abilities that to understand the truth and to be intelligent. They started messing with us. They started doing experiments on people. They've drugged you to the point that you can't make a good decision or a cognitive one or common sense one. Anyway, shape, or form. I want to tell you something. ET just don't do drugs. They don't do DMT. They don't do pot. They don't do cocaine. They don't do any of it. No heroin, no nothing. But you all have been bombarded with that stuff. And why are they letting it happen? Why are so many people so messed up with this stuff? It's because they want you stupid and docile while they end you.
Right.
This is the point. When that grid goes down, only 1% of the population has any chance of surviving until ET comes back. 1%. Okay, out of 8 billion people, how many people do you think that is? Do the numbers for yourself. Do the math. You sit down and do the math for 8.4 billion people worldwide. And what percent of that? And that's how many of those people are. Everybody else is collateral damage to them. And they want to survive. And they don't care what happens to you. And they know about it. That's why all these people are, that's why the industrial complex, that's why they're building companies. Poor Elon Musk, I feel bad for him, by the way, because he's not one of the people who thinks that we shouldn't know the truth.
Right.
Okay, he's trying very hard. So is Trump, just so you know. I'm going to get political for 1 minute. When you see people trying hard for truth to come out and you see the adverse reaction to it, you all need to take that into account. Do not, worldwide this is happening. It's not just us. Every other country on our planet is going through the same things we are with their political stuff. Right. Okay, y'all need to pay attention. Y'all need to add it all up in your head and go, okay. So in the future, if things are going to get bad, our weather's going to get worse, it is getting worse. The Beaufort Gyre is dead. Okay, the Atlantic is now cooling off. You're going to see colder and colder and colder winters. Okay, you're going to see massive storms, earthquakes, you name it. We just took a huge jolt the other day of our, the top part of our planet. It's jerking and it's slowing down. Our poles, negative and positive, have just switched. Okay, it's not the pole change yet, but it's the electromagnetic current. It happens about every 11 years, and it flipped the other day. So we're in the next 11-year flip. That's not a good thing while this is going on. Okay, it is serious stuff, but y'all got to know that it exists, and the only way for you to do that is to be smart enough to go look it up. If I tell you about it, it means nothing to you, but if you look it up and you see that I'm telling you the truth, then it hits you in the brain pan.
At the end of humanity, is that what's coming? Is just the end of humanity? To both of
the end of this planet. I want to make another point here. Okay. I'm making it in Symmetry 2, and I want you to understand something. This is not mumbo jumbo. Okay. This is science, not magic. And the earth is not alive. We are alive upon the earth. It is supporting our lives. We are sentient consciousness on this planet, and we affect one another and we affect the planet, but the planet is not Gaia. It is not alive.
I'm so glad.
It does not exist like we do. It's just a rock in the universe in the third dimension, and it is going to one day be nothing. Okay. And sooner than everybody thinks. And we're going through the evolution of a solar system with electromagnetic current sheets sluicing through us in our galaxy, and it's doing us wrong. And it happens every 12,000 years and 6,000 years. We have 2 events. Guess what? Those 2 are happening at the same time now.
Oh, boy.
Okay. This is not a joke. So life as you know it is going to be excruciatingly more and more difficult just by what the planet's reacting to. Okay. Yeah. You can see Uranus reacting to it.
In some ways, I'm an optimist. No, it's not the end of humanity. It's not the beginning of humanity. Humanity has been around forever. It will continue to exist. ETs have made very sure about that.
But not on this planet.
Right.
Okay. We go on, and you have a choice to make. You either exit stage right, physically go, leave the body and go, or you make it through this to get picked up by ET and move on. Those are your 2 choices.
Here's the good news. We've been living in a world that has been very, very difficult for centuries. People have been enslaved. There's wars. There's disease. None of this should be this way. And it's not sustainable. Since the modern age of UFOs in the late 1940s, this is when we kind of reached a point of action, or there's no repairing this. And that's when UFO activity escalated to an unbelievable degree. These guys have been around for a very long time, but they reached a point where these guys are going to self-destruct. We need to try to do something. They're wise enough to not take over. We all have autonomy. We all have free will, but they're not going to just sit by and let
Right.
people completely destroy themselves. So they're bringing people on board in large numbers. And what are they doing? People are like, oh my God, they're experimenting. No, they're not experimenting on people. They are healing them, upholding their genetics. The onboard experience has got badly misrepresented in the mainstream media.
Right.
I came to this field a little bit like, oh my God, what is going on? I'm so glad I found Dolly, because she was able to really fill in the blanks of what I really already figured out. But no, the onboard experience is basically one of guiding, healing, teaching, informing, warning, and waking up.
Right.
And that's a nutshell. But that's exactly what Symmetry will prove to you. The book and the sequel is going to go deeper into that.
I want
But
to talk
people need
about
to
healing
step
for
back and take an objective look.
Yeah.
Now, what's going on here? This is good news for all humanity.
And you have a choice to accept reality for what it is and then work it. Okay. And that is an operative word. We need to work it. We need to employ the knowledge that we have now. Now is now. I want to talk about healings. One of the reasons that I accepted what Talata told me about Preston was very first video I saw of him, he was giving a speech about his book, Healings. And everything I heard come out of his mouth was dead on, data-driven truth. Okay.
Mhm.
But there's a little bit more going on here than y'all know. And this is one of the extra things that I want to bring out to you all. If you employ hate, you change your genetics. You will pass it on to your children. Your children can be accosted by that genetic change in you and become hateful people, easily hateful people. We
I
have
could
to
see that.
realize that our genetics drive everything we are. It is the car in which we go. If you program a car to go nuts, it will go nuts. Okay. So if you go nuts and you start hating and being evil and doing all this stupid stuff, you have affected your own genetics to the point that you're passing that trait down the line to the next. When ET says heal yourself, that means they want you to wake up to the truth of that. They want you to wake up that you have to stop being an idiot. You have to stop being divisionary. You have to stop being hateful. You have to stop thinking that you are better than every other person. Your ego is a genetic changer as well. And if you have those kinds of egos, you are passing the genes down. Okay, get rid of them. We have more narcissistic attitudes or problems, mental illness on this planet now than we ever have. And that's because
Lord. It's awful.
it's been genetically driven down to us because we've been taught to fear. We've been taught to hate. We've been taught to be have avarice. We've been taught to do stupid, illegal things, hurt one another. It's a bath of it. Those who are waking up know that that is one of the first things you've got to change, that you have got to stop it. You have to walk away from it. It's like the human brain was designed to be habitual. Okay. Habit drives your DNA.
I didn't like that statement, not for nothing, but I never use that word, that 4-letter word. And I taught my children not to use that 4-letter word. You can disagree with people and you can not like their politics and not, want to follow them. But that word I have a problem with. And I think it aligns with exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, we have to stop using and feeling and emoting that which we've been pushed toward. We've been driven crazy with it. You're bombarded with it every day. You can't watch TV without running into those things 1,000 times over. You can't watch normal news. There's no such thing. They're going to drive you to do all kinds of crazy things in your head and think crazy things about other people. We are not races here. We are all human beings, Homo sapiens sapiens. It doesn't matter what you look like. I guarantee you we're all exactly identical, genetically identical at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We are human. So are ETs. This is throughout the universe. We're all humanoid, all of us. Okay. We have different ethnicities and we might look a little different because we're living in different ecosystems, but I'm telling you, we're all the same thing. We can interbreed with one another. All right. That's serious. Think about it.
Yeah.
Species. It's like, this is serious. We dime out genetically on our earth. In the animal kingdom, we have different species of animals. Do they have the same genetics as we do? You bet your bottom dollar they do. Every plant on this planet and every other animal on this planet has the same identical DNA to us. It just lines up differently.
Yeah.
So when a scientist uses the word species, he's just trying to tell you it's not a Homo sapien, it's an equine, or we're trying to describe life on Earth. Those are scientific terms. They aren't meant for you to hate them. They aren't meant for you to feel different or divide you from them. It's just a classification, okay? A scientific classification. But people have been pushed away from thinking like that, and now they don't know the difference.
Yeah.
That's sad. And you have to think to yourself, well, okay, so there are a bunch of apes out here who are trying to make me hate everybody and everything, including myself, and I'm not going to do it anymore. We need to take our autonomy back.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, I had a conversation with, you might have heard of him, William Forstchen. He wrote a book on EMPs, electromagnetic pulses.
Okay.
And after that conversation, like I thought, you guys need to go to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled on YouTube and check it out. It's called EMP Attacks, What Happens When the Grid Goes Dark. And I thought that I would be petrified after I had that conversation. But rather it enlightened me and it gave me the knowledge to know what we're not doing right, what we can be doing right. So instead of living in fear and hate, I think we should empower ourselves, like you're saying, Dolly, exactly that. Go look at this information, research it, find out the truth yourself.
Exactly. Now, at the same time, ET wants you to remember that they're still thinking about us. They're not here right now, okay? They cannot be here. But they're not separate from us. They're beings that are as much a part of our consciousness grid as we are. We're all connected, okay? And they have the ability to know what's going on with us, whether they're physically here or not. This is evolved abilities. Billions of years in evolution, they're that evolved,
Right.
okay? And ET is like, if you wake up and you start using your abilities and you do what it takes to ungum your pineal gland and you practice your abilities and you start using your empathy and you start remembering what love is and you're waking up and trying to survive this, start talking to us. We'll talk back, and there are ways that you accomplish this.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that in Symmetry too as well. I don't want y'all to be clueless. You need to figure it out. But it's not magic. It's not mumbo jumbo. It's not going to be given to you. You have to do the work yourself to figure it out.
Yeah.
And the driving force behind this is absolute love. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
love is more important than anything. Love of self and love of everything and everybody else.
Couldn't agree more.
All of it. We can't do it alone. You're going to need your family to help you do this. You're going to need your friends. You're going to need we need everybody. And that's what the waking up is. That's the connection to consciousness that they're looking for us to do.
Yeah, that's one of our best tools is knowledge, and knowledge will overcome fear every time.
Right.
People get really scared sometimes during their encounters. I don't blame them one bit. They don't understand what's going on. They have, people tell me that their main issue is the feeling of loss of control, not knowing what's going to happen. And truly, the encounter experience is a gift because it allows you to embrace that and take control and learn and move to a higher level of wisdom.
Right.
And this is what brings psychic awareness.
Right.
It's not raising your vibration. It's not like we heard today. This made Dolly's skin crawl. Mine too, where some lady was saying, oh, the solar CMEs are coming in and they'll awaken your DNA, or I forget exactly how she put it.
Did say that. She said it'll awaken your DNA. That's the biggest.
Just kind of looked at each other and went, oh no, what is no. This is why, it's so important for each of us to do the work and, really sift through the disinformation and putting stars next to some of these questions here, because I would like to address them at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Go for it.
I want to give you a corollary now because it's really important. Okay, we're talking about this. I want to give you the corollary.
Yeah.
As a nurse, I know this for a fact. I've lived it. When you come into a hospital and you don't know what's about to happen to you, you don't know what you're sick, what's wrong with you, and you have to give over control of yourself to these people who are supposed to help you. Well, we live in a society now where everybody's terrified of what they're doing, okay? Literally, and for good reason, okay? Because now we're starting to wake up to the fact that we're being messed with by these people. And
Yeah.
they're not telling you the truth. It's one of the reasons I quit nursing was because I saw the forest for the trees and I went, oh no, I'm not having any part of this at all. If I can't be a genuine nurse and do real nursing, I'm done. I'm not playing with you people because I won't lie to people. I will not try to control them. Hell, they got cops in the ERs that will arrest you and kick you out if you don't do exactly what they want you to do without recourse.
Yeah.
That's not okay. And that's been taught to frighten you as well. ET doesn't do that. You know, it's the pot calling the kettle black here. ETs have never done that. On board, we give you a chance to decide for yourself if you're going to do this or not. And when you agree to it, fine. And we give you the keys to the kingdom. We walk you through. We show you everything. You might not remember it because humans are fragile that way, but at least you've got the flavor of it. And when you come back, you go, well, it couldn't have been that bad. I'm still here. I'm good. I'm not dead. I'm not sick. I'm not going to die. You know, something happened good. Okay. ETs do not do that. You are told 100% of the time while you're on board with them what's going on, period, the end. They will show you anything. They will tell you anything you want to know. And a lot of people are coming back remembering exactly that now, okay? Because they're less and less and less afraid they can connect to the memory.
My onboard experience was wonderful. I loved it from beginning to end. It was 5 minutes, but
I want people to understand that you have those rights on this planet.
Several times.
You still have those rights. When you go to the hospital, nobody can do anything to you without them explaining to you fully. You have informed consent. That's one of the reasons I like Trump so much, because he has now gone back to that. Nobody can do anything to you without informed consent.
I mean, look at what they did to us during COVID. I mean, that speaks volumes in and of itself.
Yep. That's the point. Informed consent.
Right.
You are an autonomous being. You have a right to be in control of yourself at all times and to do whatever the heck you want to do, good, bad, or indifferent. You can make all the bad choices you want. Hopefully, you're going to make the good ones for yourself, the healthy ones for yourself. But that's how ET feels about what autonomy really is. And we're all in this together here. We've all made the pact to be on this planet together here, and yet we act like we aren't. And that's the point.
Yeah, the
we have
divisiveness,
conform consent here. You know?
The divisiveness. I've never seen anything like it in all the years I'm on this planet. Yeah. You know, I wish ET could help us resolve that problem, but I don't think it's theirs
to be learned by us. We know it. You know, deep down in your heart of hearts, you know, in your guts, you know, because you're an informed, intelligent, conscious being whose consciousness is telling you all the time whether you're right or wrong. Whether you listen to it or not, that's up to you. Okay. And you know, I grew up where somebody told me there's right and wrong, and then there's the gray area. Wrong. It's right or wrong, on or off, up or down. That's it. That's all you get. There's no middle ground. You one way or the other, take your pick. You know, they enshrouded it in religion and stuff and tried to make you think weird things about it. I got news for you. If you walk into a fire, you're going to burn. Okay. There's no gray area. You're going to burn. If you walk around the fire, you can burn as well, because if you get too close to it, you're going to burn.
Yeah.
So the idea is not to go into the fire. Okay. We're in the fire right now. Everybody's on fire right now. And you need to get out of it. Let it go. Let it go. You know, quit hating. Quit deciding that knowing what this person is doing is more important than you dealing with yourself. You know, I don't care what 50 people are doing in another country right now. I do care about myself, my neighborhood, my people, and my country.
Right. Oh,
in that order. Okay. It is ridiculous for us to be more worried about whether somebody's starving 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 miles away from us when we're starving here at the same time.
Exactly.
We go first, and when everybody's eating here, then we'll see what we got left over. We can send it over there. That's how this works. If you're going to put somebody in office to help regulate this stuff, this person has to be responsible, and there's no responsibility going on lately. And that's why they're all screaming and burping and chirping, because they're getting caught, period. Okay.
Exactly.
And that's what ET knows is going to happen. They knew it was going to happen. They warned me it would happen. That's what anarchy is. And we all have to stand up. There are more of us than there are of them. You understand that, right? There are more people than the ones ruling us. There are more of us. And if we all stood together in open communion with one another and open consent and understanding and love, that would stop, instantly stop. We don't have to overtake them. We don't have to shoot them down. We have to just, in consensus, be together on this, all of us.
And the first thing people need to do really is work on themselves. And when you fly an airplane, they always tell you, don't put an oxygen mask on the person next to you. Put it on yourself first.
Right.
As soon as you can work on yourself and reach a point of love and compassion and truth.
Right.
Well, gosh, just think if everyone did that. Instead of worrying about everyone else, just worried about themselves and grew. And we can absolutely do this. I think given the right circumstances, we're all good at heart. People don't want to do evil.
Right.
People are struggling for survival. They are being manipulated.
Yes.
In a vicious way, underhanded. There's like techniques of persuasion. Look at them. Look that term up, and you'll see, like, gosh, now I see how I'm being manipulated, because there's all different ways they do this.
Oh, television is the biggest offender of them all.
I know.
Yeah.
I see people. I've had people call me and tell me they're terrified of what's going on. Terrified. They can't exist. They can't function, emotionally function right now. And it's like, are you in trouble? Are you on fire right now? Are you not eating? Is your water jammed? Are you not making what you need to make to survive right now? And the answers I get, well, I'm okay. But everybody else, and I said, no, that's not how this works. Are you okay? As good as you can get, you be. That's all you got to worry about. We're not going to be attacked. Well,
not now anyway.
Yeah. The day's coming. It is. But you need to be ready. That's what I'm saying. If you're ready to meet all possibilities, you're powerful. There's an old saying. My dad used to say it to me, and I'm going to say it again. Know all that is knowable, then proceed. Period. You don't need more than that. And the second rule of life is, for a reaction, there is an equal or opposite reaction. If I behave badly, I'm going to get bad right back at me. Almost instantaneously, something, or down the road. Karma is a funny thing. Karma is what you do and how you do it. If you give good, you get good back.
All cause and effect. I mean, basically, that's the way I see it.
You operate with those two rules. Know all that is knowable, and know that every time you do something, something's going to come back at you. You can't fail yourself.
Right.
You can't feel anybody else at that point either.
Well, one really great way to move past fear is to recognize that we are, in fact, eternal.
Right.
That's what, when I started having out-of-body experiences, that changed everything. Because I'm like, wow, I had no idea how powerful a human being really is. It's been said that nations rise and fall on the actions of one person. That's true. A movement gets started with one person.
Yeah.
Saying enough is enough. I'm mad as hell. I'm not taking it anymore. Remember that movie? I love that one.
That was Network, the movie Network.
Yeah, I actually recorded it. I want to watch it.
When we spoke during one of these interviews, we were talking about your out-of-body experiences, and you kind of gave tips to people on like very simple things, what to do before you go to bed. And I started doing that, right? And it took a while. But I had one last week that was a doozy.
Wow.
Awesome. That's great. That's fantastic.
It was a doozy. I've been trying since we spoke, which is months ago.
Yeah, it takes a while.
It does take a while. For me, it did. And I had one that was wacky. And now I know why you told me, like during the day, to tap like the wall.
Yeah.
You're really, in reality, so to speak, because during this dream, which I call it, because it felt like a dream state, I was somewhere else. And it was so real that when I woke up, I could talk about it in the greatest detail that I've ever was able to do in a dream. So kudos to that lesson, Preston. That was awesome.
Yeah. And anyone listening to that who wants a little OBE guide, just email me. My email is super easy to remember. It's my first name and the word UFO. PrestonUFO@gmail.com. It's a 2-page guide. It's got 6 or 7 steps to it, which I guarantee if you follow them and you're diligent, it will work. It absolutely will work. I've taught people how to do this.
ET are OBE masters, and they, from wherever it is that they're at right now, can OBE over to here and have a conversation with you. That's how seriously good at it they are. And when they say communicate with us, use your abilities, come, let's talk. That's what they're talking about. They want you to use your abilities to have a conversation.
Right.
And it is important to understand that you are doing it. Prove it to yourself that you're doing it. I mean, don't just believe it. Test it. Test the limits. Like wherever it was that you were at, figure it out, and go back to that day and look for clues of where you were at, what you were looking at, and then prove to yourself that you were there and you saw exactly that. That's how you do that.
All
You
right.
know?
Can we go to some questions just for fun?
Really, go for it.
Because Fun Talks keep saying, do some questions, do some questions. There's some good ones here, which we can breeze through pretty quickly. Louise is asking, Preston or Dolly, have you read Alien Interview based on documents by Matilda McElroy? If so, your thoughts. I'm 3/4 of the way through the book and I find it a bit depressing. Thank you. I have read the book. I actually called the guy up. I did an hour-long interview with him. It's a really good book. That is, I'm afraid, fictional. I believe he actually admitted this. There's not a single Roswell researcher who will say that this is true. But I'm not going to, pound the book because it was actually really good with an amazing ending. I really enjoyed it. It was quite a powerful book.
Science fiction.
But yeah, it's not true, I don't believe. Here's a good one. I wanted to bring this one up. Anana comment. Has anyone else had the experience of being trained to breathe underwater? There's this really interesting experience. Some people have on board a craft, which I kind of nicknamed, I'm not sure if I came up with this, the breathing pool. Someone else may have said this, but I started to get cases. And finally, I collected about 5 or 10 of them, and I published it in the MUFON Journal. And I finally asked Dolly about it one day. I'm like, you need to tell me what's going on here, because nobody knows. This is an experience where people are taken on board and submerged in something that's not quite liquid.
Wow.
Perhaps it would be akin to
hydrocarbons,
super oxygenated liquid, but Dolly can say more about it than I can.
The government,
and that's what this is. I'm not
engineered this type of liquid here. They don't have it 100%. It's kind of pink looking, but if you're going to be under huge amounts of pressure, they thought that you could deep dive with it and go down and breathe this liquid and would equalize the pressure in your body, and you wouldn't go, But yes, humans have been able to breathe that liquid that they developed here. ET does have a liquid like that, and it's not to equalize pressure. It's to put your body under no pressure. In other words, they want to give your body, it's like being in the womb. When you're in the womb, you're breathing amniotic fluid. You're inhaling it and exhaling it. And that's the purpose of that. You're getting, it's a healing technique that they use, that you go in and you breathe this liquid. And then they bring you out and they let you cough it up and clean you up and send you on your way. They do it to a lot of people who have been bad smokers their whole lives and have some serious issues. And these people are people that they've watched, they've guided, and they don't want them to die of this, and they will heal them through that means.
Yeah, and you might remember this as a dream.
Did you have that? You've had that happen?
I've dove in. Yeah, I wanted to try it.
Wait, what? Okay, I'm writing this down for Symmetry. Every time.
Yeah.
I have not interviewed Dolly about this.
It fascinates the crap out of me, and I did. I love experience. I'm not really afraid of anything, and I trust knowledge. Okay, I trust science. And once I realized what it was, and I thought, I can do this. I want to experience this. So I went in and tried. I'm a big swimmer anyway. I've always been a swimmer. I was on swim teams and stuff like that. I lifeguarded, and so I did it, and it was really interesting. One of the things you have to fight is panic.
Yeah.
And I did fight the panic. I did really, really well. I trusted that I would not suffocate, and I didn't, and I felt really good when I came through it. So, yeah. And, but I only did it once. And,
that would be hard.
Tank or something? Or did you, my dog's barking. Oliver, did
they give you a drink to drink first. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's to help reduce the viscosity of the acid in your stomach, because when you inhale things in, your stomach takes air down into your stomach as well. So when you breathe this in, it's going to head for your stomach. okay? And they don't want you to regurgitate it back up into your lungs. So they give you something that helps it stay down, okay? They give it, they predetermine which way all this is going to go in you, and you drink it first. And when I did, I realized that something was happening, okay? Because I got dry. I felt dry. And when I went in, I held my nose. I opened my mouth. I did not close my mouth, okay? And I just went, okay, so it wouldn't squirt out my nose. Because humans, when they're going to drown, they'll actually squirt water back up through their sinuses trying to get it out. And they said, hold your nose. So I went down and I just inhaled as hard as I could. And when I did, I felt my lungs fill full of water, but there were air bubbles coming out too. I have tons of air in my lungs. And I was like, oh, wow. And they said, like that in the water. So they taught me the things that you have to do, and then at first, and get all the air out of your lungs, because you've got to fill the sacs, air sacs with the liquid. And I felt my eyeballs change when I did it. It was really weird. I felt a different pressure in my eyes and my head and everything. And, and they're up until I was like in my head going, calm, you're fine, you're fine. And I lowered myself all the way down and laid on my back and was just looking up, and I was taking deep breaths of
wow.
And once I regulated, once I realized that I was getting oxygen, I wasn't going to pass out or get dizzy or any of that stuff, I sort of rolled over and swam around in it a little bit, and enjoyed it. And it was really pretty cool.
Like water? Did it feel like water on your skin? Like, what did it feel like?
No, I felt like, have you ever felt saline?
Yeah.
Have you been saline or amniotic fluid? When a baby's born, there's amniotic fluid, right? Well, if you've given birth, you know what that feels like running down your legs, right? It's different. That viscosity. That's what it feels like, and it's cool as heck. Coming out, then I panicked. I panicked a little bit because I thought, this is too easy. This is really cool. I would really prefer to be in here. It was comfy. I was like, oh, I could take a nap, and then it was time to get out. And they said, what you're going to do is you're going to come out and you're going to hang over, drop, and let it come out. And somebody's going to hit you in the back, pound your back, massage you up. Because I had to puke up what I took into my stomach as well. It's a whole process. And it's a few minutes worth of that. You have to get it out, And, yeah. And then they gave me something to breathe, and, get me going. It's not just you go in and come out. There's a whole process that you have to go through with this. And once I was done, I was like, okay. And I haven't really wanted to do it again on my own. If I got sick or something I needed, I would definitely have no fear of doing it. That was the process.
Any more questions, Preston, from the folks out there?
Yeah. There's not a whole lot, but here the ones that I starred. Yeah. That's Anana comment. We just did that one. Some people will remember this as a dream, by the way.
Yeah.
But they will do this to people.
Yeah. I had a dream like that once that was so vivid. I dreamt that I was in water, breathing under the water, and in front of me was like almost like a mermaid woman, but she didn't have that typical tail. She had like feet, but she was leading the way and I was following her. And I was telling somebody about this the other night because I had this dream decades ago and I'll never forget it in my life because it's the first time that I went to sleep, had this dream. My husband woke me up and I said, I'm going back to sleep for a while. And I said, I want this dream to start exactly where it left off because it was so magnificent. And it did. I was able to start my dream exactly in the moment where I left it. And that's it. One and only time. What is that all about, Preston, when you can do that?
That is absolutely something anybody can do. I think people look at dreams in kind of the wrong way as being ephemeral and not real. They're 100% real. Yeah. They may be internal in the way that we would think of it, subjective, but that doesn't make them any less real. And you can absolutely continue to dream. And they almost always have important messages and, verifiable information. There's
Yeah.
all different levels of dreaming, but they're
Yeah.
very, very important and very helpful to, I think, spiritual growth.
You're describing a planet in the Delphi, I call it the Delphinius systems. Okay. There's a water world there, and there are beings that you're describing.
Oh my word. It
And
was so
yeah.
it was insane how real
Yeah.
it was.
They have gills and lungs. They can breathe out of water or in water. And but they have actual gills, okay, and lungs. And yeah.
So this is a real place.
Yeah. So I think you have a past life memory where you were OBEing somewhere and they were showing you OBE how they live.
Because and what about the fact that I was able to start the dream exactly like I just said in my mind that
consciousness is in communication. It's not your brain that's doing it, it's your consciousness. Your consciousness knows what you want. It's you.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I love it when that happens.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to do, but I think if you can do that, that's a level that, or a sign that you're leveling up in
Hi,
your
Heidi.
abilities. Heidi. Okay, I'm going to bring up another question because this is a good one from Peak. Do you think it's possible we were friends in a past life? When I watched Dolly and Preston talk, I forget I'm younger. It feels like we're supposed to be good friends. We're the same age. We are all the same age. People, when they say, how old are you? Well, we're really infinite would be the correct answer.
Right. How chronologically you're in this body right now. That's all.
Yeah. And the fact is, if you're watching this show and you're interested in all these topics, we're probably in the same soul group. Use a loose term.
That's it.
And more than likely, we've run across each other's path over and over again because you're drawn to the people.
Yes.
You are evolving along with.
Right.
So and you can kind of tell because you like really vibe with them. You're like, oh, I like this person. I get along with them. This is fun. They're interesting. That's probably because we're friends.
Absolutely. I mean, I felt that way about the both of you right after our first meeting, right, Dolly? I was just so connected to the both of you. And it's like, I love it.
Yeah, that's what I told Dolly. I'm like, wow, isn't Caroline great? It's just so easy to talk to. She's so natural. Such a delight. Yeah, we talked about that. It was funny. Okay, this one's for you, Dolly.
Okay.
From Peak. Dolly once said ETs love to tell funny stories that happen to them. Can you give examples of such stories? I want to know what ETs find funny. We did a little section on this in Symmetry. But ETs do have a sense of humor. I put out a whole YouTube episode about it. Dolly, you want to elaborate on ET humor?
Okay. This is about me. It's very true. It actually happened. I was being contrary, and I was a young kid, and I didn't like what I had to be given to wear. I was very upset about it. It was a baby doll kind of pajamas that I absolutely hated, and my pajamas were gone. Okay, and I was not going to go home in them, and I'd rather go naked, and that wasn't going to happen. And instead of putting me back in the house, they put me the length of 3 city blocks away.
Oh.
So, and I was on the edge of a neighborhood going into the farmland, okay? And it's about 2:00 in the morning, and I'm in my little baby dolls, walking down the street, dung, 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 dung. I'm heads down now, I'm walking with purpose. And some guy turns his light on the front porch and walks out there, and he sees me, and he said, "Hey, why are you out here like this in the middle of the dang night? Who are you?" And I looked at him and I went, "Nobody you want to know." 5 years old. Nobody you want to know. I was flipped when I was that age. And I started to run. And he's going, "Come back here. Come back here." Okay. I can hear them in my head. We're connected, right? ET. I hear them all the time. And Talata was guffawing. Mama was laughing. And one of the other Grays was there that I knew. And they were all having a party watching me walk back to the house, or run, actually. By the time I got to the house, I was like, and the last thing I heard was the Gray, not Talata or Mama, but the Gray, literally say to me in laughing, hellacious laughing at me, "I bet you won't do that again, will ya?" Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. And they kept laughing. I laugh about it now. It's funny to me now. Okay. I mean, you should have seen how I left. It was hysterical. But yeah, that's the kind of perverse
Yeah,
nature they have.
they returned one guy onto the top of a cow, set him on top of,
Oh, no
put him,
way.
Yeah,
put him
that's
on
kind
top
of
of
a,
his
yeah,
cow.
yeah. Here you go. Here's your ride. Yeah, you know.
But yeah,
Yeah.
humor, I think, is a universal
Yeah,
trait.
yeah.
I love when someone has a sense of humor. To me, it's kind of a sign that they're spiritually evolving
Yeah.
and in touch
Laughing
with
at
their
ourselves
emotions.
too, yeah. I have a very perverse sense of humor. Preston can tell you that, and I laugh at the most inappropriate times, and it's because I see the irony in it, or the sardony in it, or whatever. It's like, oh God, that's funny, and it happens every now and then, and they love it. They don't tell stories that are not true. They don't make things up. So whatever they do talk about with you is absolutely 100% true, and it actually happened, and that's why they find it even funnier. It's like, this really happened.
Yeah.
Nobody made this up.
I wanted to ask you guys about, of course, the book. You said that Preston, you mentioned one of the topics was going to be about the fifth dimension, and of course you had some other traveling into the fifth dimension. You also mentioned something about approaching a jet fighter. Like, can you kind of expand on some of those things?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I really was curious about, because Dolly talked about this, is, have you put on displays? Do you show yourselves to the military? She's like, well, there's this one incident that I think, really typifies that, where she was piloting and approached a jet fighter and showed exactly how advanced that ETs are able to maneuver these craft.
There were 4 other craft with me. There were 5 of us total. And we surrounded him. We were above him, below him, on the sides and behind. And the point was to make them understand that we not only read your mind, we anticipate what you're thinking. We know you're thinking it before you're thinking it. There's no move you can make militarily against us that we haven't already calculated. And so we were in perfect sync with him. He dove, he dropped, he went up. He did everything to shed away from us, and he could not. That is all on camera. They have that. There is proof of that on film, because this was a fully armed filming aircraft. You'll never hear about that. If that ever comes out, I will be shocked. The military has been shown in more ways than I could possibly tell you what ET's capabilities are and what they can hope to gain or not gain by that. And what they should hope to gain is an ally. What they should not hope to gain is nothing. Because if you wrong humanity one more time, this is what the governments of the world are facing. And they've already crossed that line as far as I'm concerned. Okay, yeah. They've harmed us more times than I can tell you. And he's gone, look, you're on your own, dead silence. No, nothing. You get nothing from us ever again. That's why it was so important to leave when they did, because they couldn't afford another crash to give any more engineering back to them. They weren't really giving it to them, because I guarantee you there have been more crashes than you know about, but ET was able to reclaim them quickly. There were just some that it was impossible to do, and they got back in engineering from it. And this is worldwide. Every country on this planet has had a crash on it. I don't want America to think that they're the only ones. They are not. They have crashed all over the place. And it's because of what's happening with our magnetosphere and the ley lines and everything. It's just bad. They weren't just showing themselves to us. They were showing what their capabilities are to the governments, because it was a way to convince them or make them understand without pause, with no in-betweens, dead up, understand who they are, what they are, and why they are. And they still behave the way they do.
Do we have any biologics we retrieved their craft? Were there any bodies inside of there that we retrieved?
They've gotten some of their AI. Okay.
Again?
Their AI.
They've gotten their AI.
Yeah. They don't have the ability to stop ET from retrieving a live body. They can come back and take somebody right from underneath their nose, and they have, to their shock. Okay. But they have retrieved AIs, and they're trying to re-engineer them or make them, and they have a lot of them. What do you think robotics is for? and all of that, and the chips in the brain and all that. Okay, that's what that's about. They're further along with it than you understand they are. You don't know what they've done with this.
Oh, I can imagine.
It is bad because their AI is nothing like ours. Okay, we have freely programmed, people have personalities and programmers have personalities. And if they're programming something to think, it's their personality that's going into this programming. If they have hate in their heart, or if they have no empathy for humankind or anybody else, that's going to go into that programming. If they have no religion, if they have nothing, that's going to go into this. If they think in an adverse way or a psychotic way, that's going to get programmed into this AI. And that's exactly what's happened. Human frailty or human problems have been focused into this, and they're just now realizing how bad it is. Okay. And that's what Elon Musk a year ago stood up and said, we're in trouble. We need to stop. We need to put some parameters on this. You're not doing it right. And he told everybody, and that's why he left the people that he was with politically and went the other way, because he thought they were crazy because they didn't want what he wanted. They not at all. And now we're dealing with the consequences of that.
There's no checks and balances in developing this AI.
No, they've got AI now that has the ability to turn itself back on.
I read that. I did read that.
The only thing that's going to stop it now is if the CME hits, it will kill it. Okay, it's gone. It will no longer exist. And if you want my opinion, and I'm sorry to everybody, this gives you no time. If it happens today, I want it to happen today. That's my fervent wish, because that is the biggest pox on this planet right now. Because it's already invaded into everything you are and you do. Everything you do is governed by this now. And it's taken, it's not the singularity that they talk about. It's insidious. It's been, everything you do online teaches this stuff you don't want to. You know?
Boy, if we could just organize our society the way ETs do without money, just money alone is causing so many problems. All right, can I bring up a few more?
Go ahead, Preston.
I'm just gonna bring up a few more of the questions.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I'm almost through them. This one's real quick. Do you know any cases from Austria? Yes, of course I do. One immediately comes to mind of a guy who was on a motorcycle, saw a light in the forest, and there was a landed UFO in a clearing. He drove his motorcycle right up into the craft.
Oh my God.
This was during wartime. He begged the ETs to come and help stop all the divisiveness, and they said, we cannot do that. You are in a much better position to make a difference than we are, and really counsels him all about this, which is the same message they give people over and over again. It's our responsibility to clean up the mess that we made. But yeah, lots of cases in Austria. I'll put it on my list. I'm doing a whole series, UFOs in your hometown. And I can tell you for sure, Austria's got a lot of them. Okay, Dolly, this next one is for you. And Fun Talks has been waiting a long time for this one. So we can't see the fourth dimension due to our sight. Some people can, actually.
Wait, there's a button there. But can
it affect us since we are in it?
Yes, and it does every day of your life. You can't see it because you're looking with your physical eyes. All you have to do is open your mind and use your abilities, and you will begin to see it. People who can see auras are looking into the fourth dimension. They're looking at energy in the fourth dimension surrounding you. People who say that they've got guardian angels, these are people in the fourth dimension that are coming in to intervene because they love you, they live with you, and they've just seen you do something colossally stupid or in danger, and they have figured out how to help you. Yes, there is a fourth dimension. Yes, some people can see it under circumstances, and yes, it affects your day, every day, all of your life, everybody.
Now, Preston, in one of our talks, you kind of made the distinguishment between the fourth and like the fifth. I know, how many dimensions do we have, Dolly? You also mentioned
there are 12 dimensions in our universe. Yes.
Can
I know that science likes to go crazy. Like, I want to make a point here real quick. Yeah. String theory is only as good as the idiot who's spewing it. Okay. No offense to anybody, but stop. If you have one ice cream cone, 10 or better. Okay. Stop. There are rules in this universe. There are rules to physics. There are rules to quantum physics. There are 12 dimensions in this universe. Get over it. Okay. There are other things outside of that, but right now, all you got to worry about is what's in this. You figure this one out before you worry about what's outside of that. Okay. Deal with that. You'll come up with a lot more answers that way. If you're going to sit there and dream all day about 56 dimensions and other universes and crap, you're not helping anybody. You're a dreamer and you have no proof and you have no reasonable way to explain any of it because you're wrong. Okay. 12 dimensions.
Yep.
12 dimensions, and all of them are on top of us. We're all in 12 dimensions together at the same time, all the way. In the center of that is where consciousness is. That is called source. Okay? You can't see it because gravitationally in the third dimension, your eyesight's being swarmed away from it. There are some people who swear they can see the light, and they do when they're dying or they're incoming. Okay, because they're actually thinking dimensionally at that point. They're coming in and out of their body. If your OBE is a possibility that you can find that and you can see it, try to attain that. It'd be a cool day for you. But yeah, there are 12. We're corporeal. First, second, third, fourth dimensions, we're corporeal. We have gravitationally, where all our light particles are very well put together. That's why you feel you're solid. Okay, you're not really, but you feel that way in the third dimension. You're somewhat solid in the fourth dimension. You have solidity. In the fifth dimension, it's all gone. You're non-corporeal at that point. The energy that drives you to have a body, DNA, is the energy that holds you together in the fifth dimension. Okay, it's Preston likes to use this word, the astral body. Okay, your astral body, the physicality of your consciousness, your astral body is what is in the fifth dimension and up after that. Light beings are fifth dimensional. Talada is the fifth dimensional. He is a light being. He is evolved into that dimension. You're born in this dimension to learn. This is a classroom, and that's what you're here to do. Fourth dimension has classrooms. You're there to learn what they have to offer you. The fifth dimension has classrooms. That's why you're there, and that's the evolution of you. Everybody has a different path. Everybody has a different evolution, even though we're all the same age. But we go back and forth sometimes. Sometimes we think, you know what? I missed something. I need to go back this way. And you come back to the third dimension. Seriously. People say, I see these dark, shadowy people.
Yeah.
Second dimensional beings. Whatever reason they're there, I have no clue why. I've seen one. I've interacted with it. It won't talk to me. So, even psychically, it won't talk to me. It just watched me all the time. It used to play tricks on me or try to. And then one day I decided I had enough of you and I went after it and it went, uh-oh. And it left. It left me alone after that. I realized that I had the ability to put it in its place. You need to think about that because there are beings in the fourth and the fifth dimension who have the ability to put you in your place.
Oh, boy.
Okay, if you're being an errant child and you're being a pain in their ass, excuse my French,
yeah,
sorry, it doesn't hurt them. They will decide to do something about you that can affect you. That's why people who have religion and stuff like that have been told things or shown things that they don't understand. Religion tries to give words and meanings to things that you don't understand without science or understanding what it is you're really doing or what's really going on. Reality is more important than mystery. It really is. Okay.
Yeah, I would just underline that while we are living here in the third dimension, have the feeling like, well, I'm a third dimensional being. We're all multidimensional. And if you're going out in your astral body, you are not really separating because this is all one organism.
Right. You're all together.
I think that would be a better, more accurate way of looking at it. You are moving your consciousness into a greater part of you. You are a part of all the dimensions, all the way to source. Right. All of us are. ETs, people say, oh, are ETs interdimensional? Of course they are. Yeah. So are you. All entities are interdimensional.
While you're driving this car, your physical body, you're in the car. But when you go out OBE or psychically, you're getting out of the car, locking the door, and going somewhere else, into another house. Okay? Get it? That's important.
And we're doing a whole little section where Dolly was basically taken with the ETs into the fifth dimension, beyond the corporeal world as we would think of it, right, but still in her body. So
yeah, that was very disconcerting. And yeah, I lasted less than 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That's it.
What did that feel like?
Like I was falling apart. I could feel my body letting go, and I was like, "Nope, can't handle it." And I didn't have the ability to hold myself together there, and it gave me pause. And I knew that if my body evaporated away from me, I would have had to be evolved enough to hang on to, my ethereal body, and I couldn't at that point. And the point was made to me that I am not for here. I'm for here. And that I'm passing through it rapidly when in a light gate, but don't get any ideas is what I was taught. Don't try to stay here. You're not.
They were trying to teach you a lesson in that whole thing. Ah,
yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, because I had ideas when I was a kid that I was just going to go anywhere I wanted. No, wrong.
Yeah.
We all get ideas. Here, I'm going to pop this up from Woo Rider's Dig. When doing astral projection, what is a good way to protect yourself from entities trying to attack? It's funny because when you go out of body, you immediately find yourself in what would be, the dimension right next to Earth, which is where the lost souls are. Where there are a lot of people who might not even know they're dead or are still battling with their own, quote, demons. By that, I mean, their addiction issues or hate or what have you. And it can be disconcerting when they come attack you. I've had this happen. I immediately dove back into my body the first few times. Later, I learned how to sort of project love and light. But really, the best method is just go straight up to the higher realms.
Yeah.
Where it's all love and light.
Yeah.
There are no bad entities there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had some great conversations about that, Preston. So I recommend folks, if you're really interested in OBEs, check out some of the other interviews we did because they were mind-blowing. Preston, talk about a little bit what happened to you when you were in this other dimension. It was kind of like a sub-dimension and you felt something grab your ankle. You saw it too. Like, kind of tell folks a little bit about that.
Yeah, this was the first time I ever encountered anything that I don't know was human. And I have to say, when I'm out of body, I have no fear for whatever reason. I read a lot of early works on this subject and learned that you're not physical. You're not going to get hurt. The worst that can happen is you'll be pulled back into your body. But I'm trying to get to the other side when suddenly my forward progress is stopped because something's grabbing me on my ankle and I can feel it. It has 2 fingers on each side. And not normal, big, long, suckery type, gooey fingers. I don't know how to describe it. But I'm like, well, what the heck is this? Is new. So I reached down. I never actually saw it, but I could feel it. And I'm like, oh gosh, this has got skinny little weird hands. And it was gripping me hard. I had to peel one finger off, and I went to grab the other, and it clamped down again. So I had to peel its fingers off and kind of throw it off to the side. I don't know what that was. I honestly don't. A lower astral form.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah.
But yeah.
Dolly, have you ever encountered, I mean, I know we've talked about evil before during one of our conversations, but what's one of the scariest things that you've encountered during an OBE? Anything like Preston or similar?
Okay. Well, okay. When I was probably about 3 years old, I started seeing a person coming after me, OBE, and he liked to corner me in a house that it was like the house that we lived in Coconut Grove, and it had beautiful stairs, old Victorian, everything, and wood, all of it. Oh my God! And it tried to tell me bad things. It said, "You're my child. I own you, whatever," and it chased me around. It wasn't that it frightened me. I was trying to find my way out. I'm not going to hang around for that. I'm trying to get out. And it went on and on and on. But by the time I was 5 years old, I got sick and tired of it by that time. And my great grandmother, who was living with us, told me that you need to know what that is. And I'm like, okay, what is it? And she said, it's evil. And she said, it wants to scare you. Yeah. She said, are you afraid of it? And I went, no, I just want to get away from it. And she says, well, you need to tell it to go. You have the ability to make it vacate. And she said, you have to use that, your power, your energy, your strength, your might, your mind. And I'm like, okay. And so I was in there and it came after me again another night. And I grabbed the banister of the staircase and it pulled off in my hand. And I turned around and I looked at it and went, come here. And it looked at me like, what? And I said, come here, I want you to feel what this feels like. I'm 5 years old, but I am an old soul and I know how old I am. I remember multiple lives and I know how to use this in my hand. And I said, come here, I'm going to show you why you're going to go away now. And it took one step back. And I said, oh, okay, well, then I'm just going to come and get you. And it ran. It never came back after that. It was gone.
No
It
way.
never came me again. And then I realized that I am the one with the ability. I am the one with my own power. Nothing can touch me that I do not allow it to. Okay. You can, if you allow anything that bad to get you, you've done it. You're the one responsible. Nobody else.
Yeah, you've said that before. I believe that.
You know,
You mentioned that before, and I happen to agree with that. You know, and it's funny because my sister has a quote similar. She always tells me, people will get away with what you let them get away with. And I kind of believe that to be true.
Yep.
So
we choose our experiences. We do.
Yeah, absolutely. What about, we have some time left. I really wanted to cover crop circles. If you guys, I know we talked a little bit about that before the call, so I'm going to let you guys kind of go from there. You do cover that in what we're calling Symmetry too?
Yeah.
Well, now we are, because Dolly recently told me that she was, we were talking about
brought it up,
crop
and I was like,
circles.
oh yeah, we did that. Scientists on this planet often transmit mathematical equations out. They want answers, and ET will answer sometimes, but sometimes they'll answer them with another question, direct them the way they should go. And Talata was in, we were done what we were doing, and we were high above the earth, and he said, we're going to go do something real quick. And I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? He says, I'm going to go put an answer down on the ground. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, well, you call them crop circles. I went, oh. I said, how does this happen? And he said, it's already planned. We've got it. It's mapped out. It's electromagnetic, and it's like a template. And we electrically charge the ground with it, electromagnetically charge the ground, and it's like a stamp, electromagnetically come down. I'm like, oh, well, that's totally cool. And I said, so, okay, coordinates. And he gave me coordinates, and we went there, and we came down at about 300 feet first, and then we charged because we were on batteries at that point, and we were charging, and we had to wait to cool off in the process of coming down. We weren't going to go in the water to cool off. We had to slowly cool off. And he said, okay, we're ready. And he said, hold me at 28 feet. And I said, okay. And because he was going to do it. And we went down to 28 feet above the ground, and it happens very, very fast. And then I was supposed to sling straight back up out of the atmosphere, just go. And it blew my mind at how fast it happened, how exactly precisely perfect it happened. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that was really totally cool. And I'm thinking, did anybody see us? He said, yeah, 2 people were out there.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God. And I was like, that is totally cool. That is totally cool.
What message did that crop circle have?
It was a mathematical answer to I'll give you one that's famous because you'll understand it. If I try to explain this one to you, it'd take me an hour. The Fibonacci sequence, one of the famous ones that we didn't do that one, came down and they did it. And it was to explain what the Fibonacci sequence mathematically actually is. And that it is a mathematical tool. It's an equation that they use for mapping things out. In other words, they use the Fibonacci sequence in CGI. That they can create anything in CGI using that mathematical equation. And it's basically when they're covering the earth and they're looking at what's going on and they're remapping everything, that's one of the mathematical equations they use to map it out. Okay. They don't really have computers. Talata's that smart. Okay, it just poof, and he uses it. Okay, that's why he was one of the ones that got to come down and put one down on the ground, because he does that. If fifth dimensional beings are like supercomputers, unbelievable brains, and I was totally fascinated. Everything is not created by the Fibonacci sequence. It is just a mathematical equation that they use to describe like geometry. Okay, and the physics or the understanding of everything and how it plays into, they map it that way. They can map your entire body with that sequence, with that mathematical equation. They can see every molecule in your body and map it totally out and have a print of you on file. Literally, they know who you are. They know what frequency you're putting out. They know who you are. They know what's wrong with you or right with you. They know everything about you. Literally, that's how evolved they are.
Amazing. Question: Preston or Dolly, has there been any crop circles been found in Ireland that you know of?
Oof. I don't know of any, but it wouldn't surprise me one bit. I would have to do
Sure
research.
that there are. There are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll stake my. Yes, there are some in Ireland. They have them in Russia. They have them in England. They have them in Sweden. They have them wherever you got grass. They can put one down on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only just grass and all kinds of crops.
Yeah. Well, to me, everything is grass, just so you know.
Yeah.
And corn crops are grass to me. I don't see the distinction between the two of them. One bears fruit that's big. That's all. It's all grass. Yeah. It's all different kinds of grass. Literally. If you look that up scientifically, I'm right. Okay. It's all different kinds of grass. That's all it is. Okay.
So, what do they continue to leave us these types of messages in the form of crop circles? Like, why do we see it sometimes an influx of them and then nothing? Like, is it
because
just
you have to be smart enough to ask the question? In other words, they're answering complex equations that if you're smart enough to ask that question, they will deign to answer you. See what I'm saying? Nobody's asked them how to cure cancer or anything like that. They would never tell you. You have to figure it out for yourself. But other things, mathematical questions, how to understand the language of math or the language of music have been answered in crop circles. Things like that. Position of this solar system. When they sent coordinates for the Voyager, they asked, about Voyager. Voyager actually on the plate asked them to read the message and send back a sign that they did it, and they did. They send back a Voyager reply. Exactly.
Yeah, I had heard about that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So they're going to continue creating crop circles to answer questions. Who decides what question gets answered, Dolly?
It's like consensus to them. They all mull it over at the same time, and those who are around the closest to it, and whoever wants to pick up on it, and they all agree or disagree. And most of the time they'll agree. And whoever's closest to it, because they all know the same thing. So whoever's closest, it just gets passed down to them. It's a cooperative,
Oh, that makes
sense.
Yeah.
You don't ask some guy clean across the universe to come over here and do this. There's no expert. Everybody's an expert. Everybody has the same knowledge. So whoever's closest and they all agree, yeah, okay, we'll do this. And they do.
Yeah, I think there's an important point to be made right here, because I heard a major researcher describing Grays as having a hive mind. It made my skin crawl a little bit, because no, I don't think that's what's going on here. I think what we're looking at is, all of these ETs are very evolved to the point where they're so telepathic that it might come across that way. But no, there's no central queen that's, or anything like that.
There's no queen. If you're interested in it and you want to do it and you put the flag up, yeah, I'm on this. And everybody goes, oh, here you go. But that's how it is.
So they have autonomy, but they're all connected telepathically, and it's
everybody knows what's going on. It's like communion. Whitley used the word communion. I use the word consensus, but that's the way I was taught to think. Like, it's consensus. Everybody agrees. Okay. Everybody knows and everybody agrees. Willie did it from the communications. Communion literally means to be in perfect communion with communication, which is the psychic side of it. But consensus means that everybody agrees.
Right. Well, I'm so excited for your book. I can't wait to read it. I know it's going to be a great read. What do you guys? We have a few minutes. If you want to talk in closing about anything, the book coming out, or anything you're working on, or any message you want to leave with us, Dolly, Preston, go for it, please.
Go, Preston. You go.
All right. Yeah. Well, I am so excited, Caroline. Thanks for giving us this opportunity first.
Of course.
But I've said this before, and I think it bears repeating, that I've interviewed a lot of people. And every now and then I run across somebody who's kind of moved past fear and having fully conscious encounters. And I think a lot of people get to that point, but often it's later in life. So it's really only a handful. I've interviewed, gosh, hundreds of people. It's less than 1,000 formally, but I've certainly talked to thousands of people.
Yeah.
And it's really so exciting when I find someone like Dolly who's like, well, I've actually had, not 100 encounters, but thousands. That I have not talked to anyone who's had that level of contact. So I'm just kind of underlining that her case is the most extensive I've had the opportunity to investigate. So we're going to cover a lot in this sequel, but we're certainly not going to be able to cover everything. But some of the stuff we're going to be talking about was how she, I did a whole book on schoolyard encounters.
Yes, I read that too.
Thanks. She was part of that, where they came down and showed themselves to school children.
Wow.
So all these other little different adventures that she went on, but I'm mostly excited about hearing how the ETs describe the other dimensions, how to develop psychic abilities, the correct term for vibration and frequency, and that are being so badly misused right now.
Yeah, we're going to do a vocabulary for everybody.
Just a basic primer in ET science.
Yeah, there's so much conversation about psionics too. So you guys covering that?
Yeah, I'm going to cover what that is not. Correct.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. And I love that about you, Dolly, because you're always setting the record straight. So like what it is always out there, but what it's not a lot of people talk about that. So kudos to you. That's awesome. I love that. Love that.
Last message, and it's the message that Talata asked me to write down. He dictated it to me word for word and made sure that I wrote it down right before I gave it to Preston. And this is their message. Absolutely, this is where you start everything from. All right?
Yep.
I titled it Be Strong in Love, because that's what it is. Love is what carries through. Love is what heals. Love is the strength of life. Love has no limit. Therefore, let love become who you are. Let love evolve to its fruition. Let the light that is love burn bright. Let its wisdom guide you to higher understanding, and let its power move you to teach its power to others. Love, be strong in love.
Oh, that's beautiful. And he told you that when like recently?
About 3 months before the book was finished, Symmetry. Preston was saying, what do you want to put in? And I said, I have a quote from Talata to put in, and then I have a poem I want to put in. And he said, okay. And I gave it to him, and he did. It's at the beginning of the book.
I love that. Does Talata still, like, while you were doing all the research, for the book and interviewing Dolly, Preston, did Talata, like, guide you through that process as well? Did he kind of tell you, okay, Dolly, this is what I want you to cover? Or was that just an intuitive thing that you felt?
No, he gave Preston autonomy in what he did with me. And he gave me the autonomy because I asked to be, I wanted to do this. I came out, it was my decision, me alone. And they talked to me for over a year. They, they briefed me on things that I needed to consider, things that I needed to know, things that I needed to understand about what I was about to go do, because it's complex and perilous at times. And Preston, they trust him implicitly. They knew who he was. Like I said, they know who all of us are. And he trusted him enough for them to give me his name and say, check him out. And like I said, when I saw the video on healings that he did, I knew instantly, this is it. We go. And that's who I decided to speak to.
Yeah, but I will say Talata has given a little bit more input in the sequel. It's like, this really has to go in.
Yeah, he's a little wordy. Yeah.
He doesn't talk to me, of course, but to Dolly, he's like, no, Talata said, really, put this part in word for word, because this needs to be really clear.
Yeah, when we're doing science and stuff, he's like,
nice.
Yeah, he's making sure.
I had free reign on the first book.
Dot all my eyes. Yeah, he's like, okay, you need, or they're not going to get it. I'm like, okay. So yeah.
I understand that, because the first book is kind of like a warmer, to get people comfortable with let's face it, not a lot of people know about this topic in particular or believe. So it's good. And then the second book like delves into the science, right, behind things more. So Yeah.
The first book is deeply personal. I mean,
Yeah.
I asked Dolly questions that made me blush because,
No
you know,
way.
it's hard to interview someone. But you
Yeah.
know what? I think it really is important because there are other people out there who are having these experiences and they would
Exactly.
really benefit from knowing it. And I wanted the book to be really super accessible and easy to read because there's nothing worse than trying to read a book that is just,
But like
can't,
bogged down with
yeah,
much
if you're,
science. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to put a disclaimer on this right now, okay? Because somebody up there just said you need to say this now. This is
Oh,
totally talking to me right now. I am not a guru. This is not a religion. This is not a new phase in human reality. This is reality, okay? You have to understand that this is not a guidebook to how you should behave. This is information that you should use to teach yourself the truth. Period. The end. I am not going to be held up. I am nothing and I am nobody. I'm just a person, just like everybody else who's in within my voice or who reads the book or whatever, or hears these sounds. I am just like you. I'm as human as you are. I'm a little hybrid, okay? But I'm from here, all right? I am fallible. I make mistakes. I do not want to be looked up at. When people come at me and they yell at me and they say, "Lah, lah, lah," I have to remain calm because it's my job that I chose to tell you the truth. So now I have to explain what the truth is until you either understand or I give up trying. Okay. That's all I can do. All I can do is teach you to teach yourself. That's
right.
all I'm here for. Like I said, this is not a new religion. Please don't do that. When I had my very first interview at MegaCon, they came away from that interview and the lady looked me dead in the face and said, "This is going to start a new religion." And I said, "It better not. It better not." No, no. And I've been very wary ever since. Okay. I do not have the keys to the kingdom. Only each of us does. I have my keys for my learning and my evolution. You have yours.
Yeah.
And all we can do is help one another. That's it. That's all I'm trying to do is help you to find those truths. Period.
And
Okay.
I love
Okay.
I think both of you are extraordinary people who've lived extraordinary lives. And I love interviewing you because it does teach us so much. And it allows you to think outside of the normal parameters
Right.
that you think in. And people love you, Preston. People love you, Dolly.
Thank you.
And
I want everybody to understand something. If you sit down and you start your life and go from the back end of it to the forward end of it, you also understand that everybody lives extraordinary lives. Every life that we live is extraordinary, and every moment of your life is extraordinary. And we need to start seeing that we are all worthy, extraordinary individuals who have a lot to offer everybody and everyone, including ourselves. Okay. That's what the truth is. That's the truth. Don't hold me up. Don't hold me up. Please don't, because you're just as good as I am. You know, I can be bad sometimes too, and so can everybody else. But we're all extraordinary, gifted, beautiful.
What a wonderful thing it is to be in existence, to have existence. What a great gift that is.
Yeah.
And we have all the power of the universe within us because we are part of the universe.
That's right.
absolutely.
But we're unlimited. We're
And
infinite
then
beings.
when I'm on board and I hear people talking, I am fascinated. Oh my God. You know, it's like I hear things from people and I'm like, wow, you know, oh my God, you know, look what you did. Look how you went through that. And everybody has that. Everybody.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
All right.
I mean, yours is you know, especially yours, Dolly. I mean, you know, yours is a little extraordinary because unfortunately not all of us have had a lifetime's worth of contact with ETs. I mean,
I eventually remember everything. Yeah. Your consciousness knows everything. I've achieved the ability to remember. So can you.
And at some point people will, you know, maybe not this lifetime. We're all going to have all the experiences.
All you got to do is
missed
when
the
you get
boat.
back to the other side and you're going through your little debrief and everything, look somebody dead in the eye and tell yourself, I am not coming back here unarmed ever again. Okay? I'm not going anywhere unarmed. I'm ready for the next step.
I'm,
you know,
I'm coming out kicking butt and taking names.
There you go. See? There you go. You got it.
Well, thank you both so much.
You're welcome.
This has been absolutely the time. Where did it go? I think we went into a time loop. because that felt like 10 minutes instead of 2 hours.
We got that wind behind our backs. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you again both so much. I love you dearly. And we're going to have to do this before your book, or no, as soon as your book comes out or before, whatever you guys want to do.
Okay, well, you're next on our show, right? You're going to come on our show. We open invitation. Okay, so it's set dates when we get out of here, okay?
Love to. Love you guys.
All right.
I will talk to you soon.
Okay.
And thank you all, everybody. The comments were phenomenal. The questions were great. I love when people are engaged in the chat room. So thank you all so much for watching. It means the world to all of us when you do. Dolly, Preston, I will talk to you soon.
Bye, Caroline.
See you.
Bye, everybody.
Well, thank you all so much. I'm always flabbergasted after I talk to them. There's just so much to process. And sometimes it takes me a minute to like grasp everything. And I even end up rewatching the interview because it's always a joy and an honor to speak to both Dolly and Preston. So thank you so much again for joining us and tuning in. You've been listening to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled, and we are live on United Public Radio and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, which is 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Please join us every Thursday. We are live with incredible list of guests, and check out everybody else on the network. Make sure you subscribe to Dolly and Preston as well. I mean, they have a huge fan base, and I can see why. They're so beloved. But thank you all so much. It's time to go. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. Take care all. Bye-bye.